Good afternoon. We're going to have 2 sessions in English. So therefore, I was given explanations on how to get the English translation. In the English-speaking world, they call this slot the graveyard slot. In Spain, we call it the avoid falling asleep in a siesta slot. In any case, for those of you who are in the room, it's a big danger. The room is cozy and it's nice and dark, so that you can see the screen really well. Those of you at home are in even deeper danger, I guess. But let's make an effort, because we have 2 very interesting presentations from the 2 members of Studio Syro. So the first one is called Masters of Masters of VR Animation by Nick Ladd. He's our first speaker. We have him with us today. He is a Canadian VR artist and animator, the founding member of the virtual animation community. We are extremely happy to have you with us. We are a bit of a community ourselves as well. So really, really cool that you can talk to us about the virtual reality community in general, and maybe touch upon some of the works that you have done at Studio Syro, which I'm sure Dan Frank will be covering later on. So I'm going to give you the floor, I'm going to give you a round of applause, and then we'll do Q&A. So, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Ladd.
Hi, everybody. So today I'm here to talk about myself, my work, how I got into virtual reality, how I got involved with the virtual reality community, the virtual animation community, virtual painting, and just, about myself, about some of my work, and how you can get involved with the community if you have any interest. So for anybody that doesn't know, the virtual animation community is the English-speaking VR community. We exist online via Facebook. There's a Facebook group, and there's also a Discord where you can join challenges, and there's a YouTube channel where you can also watch tutorial videos that are done on usually kind of a weekly basis. So I'll get back to that a little bit later, but first I'm going to start about myself. So my name is Nick Ladd, like I said. I come from Canada. I came to Madrid for a warmer vacation from Canada. It's much warmer here than it is there. Plane was frozen solid. Almost didn't make it. But yeah, it's great to be here. So I was one of the early adopters of VR art and animation. I got it started with it almost as soon as it came out. I was kind of following the progress of VR. In general, I'd bought a CV1, the first headset, really liked the roller coasters, saw some really cool short films, and then I sold it. And I said, when VR gets a little bit better, I'm going to buy a headset, I'm going to do more of this. But at the time, it was still too early. So yeah, fast forward a few years, and it did get better. I started a company for it. I do YouTube videos. So, and yeah, my most known works would be the 3 that are on screen. So I directed and animated 4 stories for Facebook. I also worked on Tales from Soda Island, and I worked on Namoo, which is a Sundance film, got Oscar shortlisted, very popular film, and it's also available on HBO Max. So I'll talk about that shortly. So this is my work from before. So before I got into VR, I studied illustration, and I really enjoyed doing, paintings, simple paintings. I did some fantasy work. I live in Montreal, so everybody in Montreal who's in the art scene wants to be a concept artist. There's so many animation studios and VFX studios that everybody who's in illustration is like, I'm going to do concept art. And so was I. I was like, yeah, concept art is my calling. Did lots of illustration. And then eventually, I also did painting. Eventually, I kind of was realizing that although concept art was really cool, and I still like concept art, it was never the final product. It was always like the stepping stone to the final product. And I kind of wanted to be more involved with that final product. And to get there, I knew friends who were animators. And their animation program had concept art that then became, a film. So to me, I started looking into animation. I saw my friends going into it. And basically, I slowly transitioned myself into 3D animation but with the goal in mind that I wanted to bring some of the illustration background I had into the 3D world, which, so this is some of the stuff that inspired that. Was about 10 years ago or so, there were films like Paperman and Pet, which Pet was the first version of Feast, which was the film with the dog. And those had really great illustrative styles, but in 3D. And 10 years ago, I was looking into how do I do this? And there wasn't really that many options. It was really like, or at least the ways you could do it was very technical. Although it looks very intuitive, handmade, brushstrokes, there's very little of that involved in the process, at least not that people like me can access as a first-year student learning 3D. It was very inaccessible. So I did try some stuff. This is the highest quality video I could find. But I basically had done 2D animation on planes and kind of animated them, wrapped on 3D mesh, and it kind of worked, but it wasn't really capturing that illustrative style in 3D the way I wanted. It was a very obvious disconnect. And then one day I found this stuff, which was work by Joe Daniels and by Goro Brigida, who were just getting into VR animation and VR painting. And this was brand new at the time. Quill couldn't even animate, it could just paint, and AniVR could kind of do both. So with these things, these are really what inspired me to go buy that headset. It was the idea that I could, using my hands, paint geometry for the first time. And that's really why I got into Quill. This is one of the first pieces I made. I was just exploring the idea of creating these painterly scenes. And it was so exciting at this time, and it still is exciting now, because it was so new. And every single brushstroke I did, every scene I painted felt like I was pioneering something new, that nobody's ever painted Mars before in VR. Nobody's ever stood in a scene like this, because not only did it check the box for me of making a handmade looking 3D scene, but it was also a scene that I could step into and inhabit, and that was even better than what I expected. I was just hoping to create illustrative 3D models. So with scenes like this, I took my first steps into creating virtual 3D worlds. I then, not too long after, did this scene, and I think this piece took me something like 3 hours to do, which was mind-blowing, because I could make an entire medieval town with a boat and, an island and all sorts of stuff in 3 hours, and it was so much faster than doing it in Maya, and so much closer to that kind of illustrative style that I was really looking for. And again, at this time, there was still no animation, but there was the illustrative part, and I soon learned that I could take this stuff into Maya, and that just blew my mind too, because no longer was it limited to being in Quill. I could actually use this in my pipeline. So fast forward a little bit, and I redid the scene you just saw. I got better at it. I started to do, line art. I was like, wow, maybe I'm the first person to build a city like this elaborate in virtual reality, first person to visit a place like this. And just, that was really what was pushing me forward and forward to keep exploring this new medium, because it was so new. And wrapped around this kind of pioneering was the virtual animation community, which every time something new got posted, it was always exciting, because everybody was making stuff that I'd never seen before, and sometimes they would share the link and you could go download the scene and visit it yourself. And being a part of that community and really exploring the frontiers was exciting. And every time I thought I'd reached the limit of how much you could do in Quill, somebody would go further. They'd say, oh, you made a city? Well, I made a whole, you made the small medieval city? I made San Francisco. And it was like a one-to-one replica of San Francisco. And as I kept working in it, I really realized that the limits were basically infinite. So I kept working on stuff, doing illustrative painting works, samurai, trying to mix the painterly brushstrokes with the actual line art. This dinosaur, again, very, very painterly. It actually exists in a virtual reality museum, which was super exciting as well, just the idea that this art medium was taking root in various ways. But yeah, and that's really it. I really do think it is a medium. It's a new medium, and it's not every day that a new art software comes out, a new art way of making art. All the stuff I'd been doing before Quill was Photoshop's been out for 20, 30 years, and before that, watercolor's been out for hundreds of years. And so just so much stuff felt like it had already been done, explored, and there's always room to keep exploring those mediums, but this was one where nothing had been done. Everything was so new, and it was just so exciting to discover those things. So eventually they added animation to Quill, and that was really where things got exciting, because I had been studying 3D animation. So suddenly having access to a whole new way of creating stuff in Quill, like these fish, it just changed everything. And from then on, I've been animating pretty much nonstop. It's the main thing I now use Quill for. And stuff would have taken quite a while to animate in Maya was so fast to do in Quill, and these characters were fun and easy to make, easy to animate. I've always liked kind of squash and stretch, so being able to move the face and make it squish and squash and doing those bubbles and the facial expressions without having to rig was nice. And I always enjoyed rigging to a certain degree, but the amount of time it would have taken me to model, rig, and animate these characters would have been so much longer than if I had done it in Maya. So this project basically led almost directly into my animation career in Quill. So I had made this just for fun, just in an evening. I added Rocky music to it. And then basically from there, I was asked by Facebook if I would mind making a piece for them. They had a platform called Facebook Spaces that was going to be hosting Quill pieces where you could watch things with your friends. And this was initially going to launch there. And so basically I made this film 4 stories, and they wanted to see more of those characters I'd made. So I said, okay, I'm going to find a way to use those characters and tell a new story. And that's how 4 Stories was born. And 4 Stories is actually, in my mind, and I think just in general, still a very novel concept. Because it's not your typical 3D animated film that you watch and it happens around you in 360. What was special about 4 Stories is instead of happening around you, it happened in front of you. And not just in front of you, but around a corner in front of you. So if this podium was the building, I would be watching, say, the yellow story, but then on this side of the building is the blue story. So I really wanted to emphasize the 6DoF VR experience of being able to walk around. So if you walk to this side of the building, you get to see this story, and characters from this story would maybe go over here. So it was designed that you'd really have to walk around to experience the film. And most VR films are more static than that. They're happening around you. You can watch them you could record a video and still watch it, but this film's very unique in the sense of it only really works in virtual reality. And it was a really fun challenge. Storyboarding for this was an interesting challenge. Each wall of the building was basically storyboarded separately, so I had 4 full-length storyboards of the film. And yeah, it was just a great experience. I got to direct something for the first time. I got to really show off new Quill animation techniques that I'd just been discovering. And yeah, just really tell a story that didn't take itself too seriously and let me innovate in this VR space in a new way. So the next thing I worked on, not directly, but a couple years later, I was doing a lot of freelance, was Namoo, which is a film by Baobab, directed by Eric O. And this is one of the first, or still the first, big VR film that has really toured lots of festivals, and it's on HBO. It really has hit harder than most Quill pieces have. It has had a huge reach thanks to Baobab's marketing team. And this film, or what you're seeing here, is 100% Quill. There's no post-processing, there's no other software involved. This is basically rendered directly out of Quill. So we were really excited by our ability to just, work in Quill and really push the limits of not just the environments, but we did characters. And yeah, now this film is out, it's on HBO. It had a great run at the festivals, and like I was saying, it got shortlisted for an Oscar. And yeah, we did a lot of really interesting things here. So me personally, I did most of the animation of the environment. So the way that the tree will shift from one to another was something that I worked on. whereas Dan Frank, who's here, was responsible for painting these environments. So from concept art, we created these environments, and then basically I would treat each of these trees kind of like key poses. So tree 1, tree 2, and I have to find out how to do manual in-betweens to get between those two trees, which was, in some cases, very difficult, because the lighting would change, and as you know, if you've used Quill, the lighting all has to be kind of hand-painted, right? So figuring out how to do those lighting transitions was always an interesting challenge, and also making sure each transition was unique to the previous one. Yeah, it was a very interesting challenge, but the film came out beautifully. And if you haven't seen it, you can watch it on the Oculus Quest, or you can watch it on HBO. Both versions are amazing. After that, or kind of at the same time of that, things started happening a bit in tandem. I co-founded Studio Syro, along with Dan Frank and many other members. One of those members is Funilab, who is responsible for the Tales from Soda Island IP. So he painted this. He painted basically everything that you see in Soda Island. And Funi's a really creative individual. He wants to tell really unique musical stories. And that just suited really well to the world of Soda Island and VR animation and just VR in general. So we basically strove to make the first VR series ever made, well, in VR. So again, this is a series that we didn't touch it outside of virtual reality. We didn't use After Effects or Unreal or Blender. It was rendered, there was no rendering. Everything was real time. And so far we've done 5 of these episodes. They're all very unique. I hope everybody gets a chance to check them out. But every time we do a new episode, we try to push the envelope a little bit further and try to make something that nobody's seen before in VR. And I think so far we've been very successful. Here's just a video clip of Soda Island for those who haven't seen anything. So lots of different worlds, and this series wasn't like 4 stories with the walls, but very much 360. So we always try to make sure there's things going on all around you. Everything's alive, everything's colorful and vibrant and just exciting and fun to watch. So yeah, every film or every episode in the series follows a new character, and you just get a sense of this island coming to life and different parts of this island being different with different cultures and different stories. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful series. I'm super grateful to have worked on it and got to add my contribution to it as an animator. And yeah, it's, well, I'll let this play out, but definitely check it out. All these episodes are free. So is Namoo. Namoo is free if you ever want to watch it. So yeah. And again, yeah, we really try to push the envelope each time. We do something more, optimizing it to get on it works on the Quest each time. It gets more and more complicated because the films get more and more ambitious, but every time we've knocked it out of the park, I'd say. So this is all art by Funi, and this is what a Soda Island storyboard looks like. Funi is very committed to painting everything and really having his artistic hand kind of guide us. So as you can see, these storyboards in some cases are a little bit up to interpretation. These are kind of this is usually the storyboard and concept art at the same time. So we'll look at a panel like the top one, and that will be our reference for building an environment. And we don't have strict concept art of this is exactly how the scene looks. It's more, this is how the scene needs to feel. And then once we kind of know what the story is exactly, we can build these environments to suit the story and the camera work we want to do. And in the end, we basically just want to make sure that these environments still look like these, but they're directly inspired by, well, they're directly, the Quill art is directly inspired by these very painterly thumbnails. And you can see this, for instance. These are 2 pieces of concept art for Soda Island. And the final result is more detailed. We spend more time actually fleshing these out. But as a starting point for a Quill piece, it's perfect. You can pick the colors directly from it. And then the finished Quill piece would be something like this. So We always make sure to emphasize VR where we can. We would like to have lots of depth in these scenes, so foreground, midground, background. Funi has a unique style where the background gets more saturated and really comes forward. And my contribution to this scene was all of the animation you see in this scene was animated by me. So the lightning going up the poles, the fruit in the background on the conveyor belt, the mushrooms, the swamp, the creature that's made of atoms in the floating there. I got to work on all this stuff, and it was a really satisfying scene. It came together really beautifully, all from that one piece of artwork. And then this is another scene that I worked on. This is one where I actually modeled this environment. I think Dan Frank moved the vines around to get a better composition. But basically, it looks just like the initial art, but we've translated it into a proper 3D world. So we found that if you have really tight concept art that's exactly what you want, typically the way that we've been working is it will end up changing anyways. We usually build environments a few times, or we'll build it a few rough ways with the same kind of style, and then we'll move things around until it makes sense. So the way we've been doing our art and our storyboards had been working pretty well for the illustrative scenes that we like to create. So this leads me back to the virtual animation community. Both of the projects, or all the projects, not Namoo, but 4 Stories and Neon Jungle, you can actually find video tutorials on how these were made very in-depth by the Syro team on the virtual animation YouTube channel. So, like I was saying, every Saturday, or formerly was every single Saturday, we would do a live class. Not Studio Syro, but the virtual animation community. Artists would come on, they would do a 1-hour stream, do a Q&A. It would happen weekly in our Discord. And then if you missed the Discord, you could go on YouTube. So these are 2 streams that I was involved in. The one for 4 Stories, where I do a 1-hour in-depth breakdown of how 4 Stories was made, and the Syro stream for the Neon Jungle, where we talk about more in-depth how our process works for that sort of stuff. How do we organize our file? How do we build our characters? How do we build environments? How do we do compositions? It's all stuff that there's not time to cover in a short session like this one. But the virtual animation channel has tons of videos. So if you're new to Quill, or even if you just want to learn new things in Quill, these videos tend to be pretty advanced. So if you're already good in Quill, these will help you with various things like, we have videos on particle effects, we have videos on how to use Unity and Quill together for real-time filmmaking, videos on how to make Quill look like claymation if you want. I think that's in Cinema 4D. Wind effects by Danielle. And of course, things like our Syro streams, 4 Stories, and just how to paint performance-friendly art so you can put it on the Quest. So this channel is a really great place for, I'd say, more advanced Quill users to improve their craft or learn new ways that they can basically take their work into other softwares. And YouTube has a feature where you can auto-translate anything to any other language. So if you wanted to watch them in Spanish, you could have Spanish subtitles. I did check, and it does work with these automatically, so it's very accessible. I also have a YouTube channel, and mine's a lot more basic, but I run a YouTube channel called Anibrush Academy, where I basically upload Quill videos that are very basic. They're how to paint, how to use the camera tool, how to use this tool, that tool, how to upload to Sketchfab. And this is really designed because as a pioneer and somebody who was really starting in the Quill community, I wasn't seeing any tutorials like this. And somebody who usually comes into a software like Maya and is always Googling, how do I do this, how do I do that? I felt like there was just a gap in that information. So I just made a YouTube series. Again, it's free, it's on YouTube. And if you're new to Quill or you know somebody who wants to get into Quill, I created this specifically for people like that. So you could do basically watch each video, one after another. They're 2 minutes each. And by the end of it, you'll know how to use Quill. And then maybe you want to go back and watch those virtual animation videos, which are more advanced and will teach you very specific techniques. So back to virtual animation, the group not only does videos, but we also do challenges. So weekly there are challenges where there's a subject matter, a theme, but where the community really shines is in our big challenges. So these challenges come up a few times a year. They're usually seasonal, and they have a longer submission deadline. They usually last a month or a month and a half, and the entries we get are always very exciting. So this is a project that we actually did at Studio Syro in collaboration with the virtual animation community called SXVA, which stands for Syro X Virtual Animation, it's like a hybrid thing. And the point of this challenge was to create fighters. We're basically working at Syro to make a Super Smash Bros. Style fighting game that works in VR. And we've built a system so that we can take Quill characters with a specific breakdown of what we need, jump animation, punch animation, slide, etc., and put them together into a playable character. So this is the character I submitted, who's based on a tutorial character I made. And as you can see, he has an idle, he has an attack, he has a jump attack, all sorts of stuff. And we basically sent out a template for people to use so they could make their own character. And the amount of submissions we got really blew our minds. We were expecting, 15 submissions or something. We ended up getting, I think, over 40. And here's some of them, and you can see they're so creative. Just so many different artists with so many different styles and backgrounds just submitted all sorts of characters. The one on the left is by Nick, and he's the guy who kind of organized the whole event. So he made a little hamster character. The character in the middle is super exciting with its attack shooting confetti. And then you have Gilgamesh's character, who's just a huge Dark Knight type character, which very different play styles, very different, attacks and techniques. Here's 3 more, one by Danielle, Goro, and Lucas. So Lucas had fun with it. He made Kingdom Hearts mix with his character, gave him a whole bunch of Kingdom Hearts moves. Goro, of course, made his classic robot character, and Danielle's character from the Remedy made it into our fighting game as well. Oh yeah, and those are just 7 of the characters, but like I said, there was probably about 40 or 50 of them. So definitely stay tuned. We're not finished making the game yet. It's quite complicated to make games just in general, so we're still improving, and so far it's looking good, but yeah, we had so many submissions, so definitely check out. You can find videos on the YouTube channels to see what kind of characters were submitted. Another challenge we did at Virtual Animation was a Halloween challenge. So again, like I said, the events we do are usually seasonal. So the Halloween challenge was one that came up around October, and it was pretty straightforward. We had one artist, Roxandra, give everybody just a pumpkin template, and the goal was just carve a pumpkin for us. And so these challenges are fun, and sometimes we get people who've never used Quill before in their life who show up to enter these challenges, and it's just, new. So here's a video where you can see the results. So mine was the middle one with the fire that goes up and down. I just wanted to practice kind of lighting. Some people did, this guy vomits and just crazy stuff. And really the community's not picky about what gets submitted. People can really submit what they like. They can change the style, really do what they like. And these challenges really bring out the best in the community, and being able to share stuff without competing with each other is always really exciting. But yeah, this one as well, we got a ton of submissions, and they're always super fun to watch. And these pieces, they also go up in the on the basically Oculus Quest and the virtual animation player. So you can actually watch these pieces in VR as well. They're always optimized to work on the Quest, even with 30 characters or something. So great way to get involved. And yeah, this is everybody who participated. Following this, we had a Christmas challenge, which we had very recently, just back in December. And the goal of this one was, we had just an ice track And the challenge was called Santa's Delivery Squad. And the goal was really just create a character traveling somewhere with presents. And so, like the Halloween one, it was even more open than that, where you could really make anything, as long as it was kind of Christmassy. And again, we got challenges, we got entries for people who had never touched Quill before in their life, all the way to people who have been using Quill like me for like 5 years, 6 years, or however long Quill's been out. And again, here's a video. Somebody made a huge mech Santa, and then there was, cute bears. Like the actual range of entries is always exciting, and it's so fun to see the different styles come together in one piece. And some people make things like Elsa, and then some people make this robot, crazy stuff, and it was, But yeah, that one too, we had more entries than we ever anticipated. We're always hoping for lots of entries, but this one had even more than we were expecting, and we were like, we said we were going to put this on the Quest. Are we going to be able to put this on the Quest? Because if you've ever built VR stuff for the Oculus Quest, there is a lot of limits to, you can't have too many triangles. You can't have too many characters on screen at once. The environment can't be too big. Like, there's so many limits. And although the limits are pretty forgiving, when you have entries coming in from so many different people, you can't really control how they're building characters. And it was such a successful challenge that we were just not expecting it, and it's good. But yeah. So basically, virtual animation has been, during the pandemic, kind of like a nice haven for me. It's been like a nice community to go back to. So when things are tough, there's always, and in the world where there's not that many Quill artists around, it's great to have a community like this one, or the Spanish VR community, where you can just find people that also really enjoy Quill, enjoy pioneering Quill, and showing each other new tricks and techniques. Because even in person, it's rare that you have an event like this, where you get to meet Quill artists in person, so much of it has happened online. And when it comes to companies like Studio Syro, I would probably never have met my coworkers if it had never been for this community. Because we're a completely virtual community, we all exist on different sides of the planet, so this community really allowed us to come together, and we bonded over the shared love of Quill, and how we could bond, we bonded over the shared admiration for this software, which has, in our opinion, changed the art world in many ways. And yeah, I highly recommend that if you're not already a member and you want to do more Quill work, that you definitely should join this group, share your work, get some feedback, watch the live streams, watch the videos, and yeah, I hope you learn a lot from each other the same way I have learned a lot from everybody else. And yeah, now I can do some Q&A about anything we spoke about.
Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much, Nick. There was absolutely nobody asleep in the room. They were actually rather entertained and amused by your work, so well done. Any questions from the floor for Nick? There was one over there. We'll be bringing you a mic in a second.
Hi. Thank you very much for this. It was very interesting. I have a question about, I've seen your work. It's amazing, that one, the 4 stories. And I imagine that Facebook gave you a lot of freedom to do it. But I would like to ask, if you have to do some commercials, for example, like traditional, with this tool, what do you think is not pro. How do you say contra in Spanish?
Against, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Did you understand? Yeah.
No.
Yes, challenge, or if
So-
you want to change something in the animation or some, in the process.
Yeah. So when it comes to working with Facebook, has actually been very, very nice. They're very open to how you want to make things. So Soda Island gets released as is, and things like 4 Stories get released as is, and there's very little. They don't really tweak it. They don't really want to make it a certain way. We really get a lot of creative freedom in that regard. It's different when you work with commercial clients because they might want, it's like a commercial project. And sometimes that can be a problem with Quill just because if they say, oh, we like this, but we wish the character's shirt was yellow, a tweak like that can actually be quite hefty in Quill because you got to do it frame by frame, and you can make that fix. But Quill is the most successful when you can do quick, short bursts of animation. And those are easy to make. You can make those so quickly that it's easy to iterate. So if they say, we don't like this, you can do it again. But for a whole long film like 4 Stories, it's really best to make sure you know exactly what the client wants before you set out. And in the case of 4 Stories, there wasn't a lot of pushback. But in a bigger project with a different creative head, you could have a different experience. But yeah, Quill is, in my opinion, Quill is a great tool to do commercial work as well. You can make it pretty quickly, and you can really give it a unique style. So I think people often say there's nobody hiring Quill artists, for instance, but it's not true. The people don't know what Quill is. It's so new. So for me, I think you can still do commercial art in Quill. I had a lot of success doing freelance work, but it's just that people are looking for 3D art, and you're going to offer them 3D art with a twist. The fact that you made it in VR is usually not important. It's just the fact that you can make something unique and beautiful, and that's usually what people want for their commercial work. So,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Right then, so thank you very much, Nick. It's been a pleasure to have you and to listen to you. So thank you very much.